Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I, I have a almost unbelievable story about the Breonna Taylor murder and the twists and turns that it has taken. So for anyone listening who's not familiar, Breonna Taylor was a 26-year-old woman. She was an EMT. She was murdered in her own home by police officers when they conducted a no-knock warrant at the wrong address. To make matters worse, they already had the suspect in custody, the person who they were attempting to arrest with that no-knock warrant. So they entered Taylor's home and they shot her 8 times. Again, this is a no-knock warrant. So for anybody in another country who's unfamiliar with that term, it literally means what it sounds like. They bust into your place of residence without knocking, and they have a warrant to do so. I'm sure there's cases where maybe it makes sense, but in this case, they screwed up big time. So they broke into her home in the middle of the night. Her boyfriend at the time, a man named Kenneth Walker, shot at them because, of course, if you're woken up in the middle of the night by somebody busting into your home, you assume it's an intruder. So he shot at the police officers and they arrested him. They allegedly threatened his life. They interrogated him. He was trying to save Breonna Taylor's life. They basically didn't have any interest in helping him. And she bled out and she died. Anyone would have done the same thing. Anyone would have shot at them if they had a gun or tried to protect themselves in some way, shape, or form. But so far, no one has been arrested other than Kenneth Walker. No, none of the cops involved have been arrested. No one has paid the price for her death, and this happened months ago. In fact, nothing was taking place. The cops were still working, being paid and working after her death and until there was public scrutiny. It really was not until the death of George Floyd that this whole thing blew up. So again, no officers have been charged, but her family is suing the city for wrongful death. And now Kenneth Walker is also suing. He's asking that the court protect him from any further prosecution in the case based on stand your ground laws that exist in that state. Well, now the police appear to be attempting to, once again, as we've seen over and over again in this country, blame the victim for their murder, blame the victim for their unconscionable actions. Because Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend is a man named Jamarcus Glover. And he alleges that cops are now offering him a plea deal in a case that has nothing to do with Breonna Taylor if he agrees to sign a document implicating her in a, quote, organized crime syndicate. So essentially, they're trying to bribe him. The police want Glover to sign a document which states, quote, that he and co-defendants were involved in a drug trafficking operation in Kentucky. So Glover faces up to 10 years in prison for drug-related charges, but he and Breonna were not dating at the time of her death. He was not living there. She had nothing to do with him or whatever he was allegedly involved in. So Glover has luckily declined this bribe from the police. And in phone conversations that were recorded in the prison, he's told his friends that he believes the cops are trying to deflect, essentially, from their wrongdoing by making it appear as though Glover is implicated in this crime and that it's indirectly his fault that Breonna Taylor is dead. So a Louisville defense attorney named Ted Schaus concurs with Glover's assessment. He told reporters, quote, she is destroying them and they want Jamarcus Glover to do it for them because their efforts have failed. So they offer him a bribe, basically. All you have to do is smear her. And I should also point out that Breonna Taylor's family has corroborated Glover's claim that police are essentially trying to bribe him. They actually posted pictures on Twitter of the documents that law enforcement officials are trying to attempt to coerce him into signing to implicate Breonna Taylor. This is disgusting. This is absolutely vile and horrific. And this is why we need to end qualified immunity in this country. Police officers get away with literal murder constantly. They either pull shit like this and try to make the victim out to somehow be a perpetrator and somehow guilty of a crime. And this just shows the depths to which they're willing to sink. The fact that they murdered a 26-year-old young woman who was doing nothing wrong, asleep in her own home, and they don't even have the ovaries to step up and take responsibility for their failures, for their murder, and do the right thing by her and her family. It's disgusting. I never thought that I would be on board with defunding the police, but I 100% am. 100%. And for anybody listening who wants to fearmonger, no, defunding the police doesn't mean that you take away all their money and there are no more cops. What it means is that you don't rely on the police for every little thing. You don't send them out for mental health checks. You don't send them out to deal with people who are maybe on drugs and need counseling or need to be put into a detox program. You don't call them out to deal with barking dogs that they end up shooting. You just don't call them for everything. They don't have to take on everything. And you allow them to be investigated by someone other than their fellow officers. Instead of internal affairs, you have a third party that investigates issues like this, situations like this, murders. You have them investigated by a third party who is objective, who's not buddies with them. You don't have the coroners that they work with on a daily basis being the ones to come in and provide a report as to whether or not they might be guilty based on the trajectory of a bullet or the cause of death. You have third parties that do it, who don't have a dog in the fight. We need a massive overhaul of law enforcement in this country. We will stop. People on the left, especially progressives, will stop when things change, and not until then. All right, guys, as always, like, share, subscribe. I will talk to you soon, and I'll let you know if there's any new information in this case. As always, take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.